moving on slightly on chapter 7. Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer for these last couple chapters.
Yeah.
Whilst I was reading them, I got so into them that I didn't actually really take any notes. Like, I couldn't actually stop myself from reading, so I just kept on reading. And yeah, I don't really have much questions to ask, but I will ask the questions that I have written down.
So chapter 7 is failure is the way forward. Is that the
failure is the way forward.
Yeah.
So the first excerpt that I came across that I thought was beneficial, well, resonated with me. Instead, my value was something else. It was freedom, autonomy. The idea of being an entrepreneur had always appealed to me because I hated being told what to do and preferred to do things my way. And that's on page 149. And I don't know if that appeals to you as well, Pete, because I know you've been in similar positions. And I also enjoyed the story of Picasso.
That was a good one.
With the story of the napkin. And he mentions improvement at anything is based on 1,000 of tiny failures, and the magnitude of your success is based on how many times you failed at something. In regards to the Picasso story, do any of you want to embellish on it or go into it a bit more?
Oh, go on, P.
You sure?
Your time to shine, bro.
No, you sure you ain't got nothing to say?
No, your time to shine, bro.
No?
Your time to shine. All of you, bro. Just don't miss out like 80% of the story.
There's not about
It's your time to
80%.
shine, bro.
You sure nothing to say?
Nothing to say, bro.
Okay, cool.
I might just fill in any odd gaps or, large gaps.
Okay,
or
cool.
Substantive
Large
gaps that you might miss out.
I mean, I generally like to just conclude on the story. So, I mean,
Without no depth or,
Okay, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going
no
to...
beginning, no middle, just pure end.
Or maybe it's some entitlement. Entitlement. Can I have what...
You want to get that Tourette's checked
can
out,
I have some of what you're saying, please? Anyway. Sorry. So, from what I remember, okay?
Yeah.
Alright? Now, obviously, Picasso, I think, was in a cafe, I'm going to say,
yeah.
and I'm not too sure. Well, anyway, he was in a cafe. Do you want me to say he was eating, maybe? Having a coffee? Okay, so anyway, he was in a cafe.
That's so important.
He was in a cafe, and I think he was doodling. We're going to say he was doodling on a napkin. And then someone else who was in the cafe as well saw he was doodling, liked what he was drawing, and then I think he was going to screw it up and throw it away. Go on. No, that's fine, it's not a problem. Well, let me finish. Well, let me finish and then you can interject. It's going to be very short anyway.
Gonna bother.
So he screwed up the napkin and was going to throw it away, to which he asked if she can have it.
Yeah.
And then he said for, I think it was £20,000, I think it more.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for £20,000, to which what I liked about the story was he included the value of his work, dare I say, whereas it only took him 2-3 minutes to put that doodle in together, but it actually taken him his whole lifetime in that, based on his experience and life experiences, stuff like that. So, did I miss anything out, guys?
No, you're good, bro.
Thank Mason. No, nothing. Shh.
Alright, similar answer.
You put the... Sorry, no.
So go, yeah.
I had to get it.
Do your thing, bro. Get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
As Anthony Yardy says, the boxer, lions in the camp. Anyway, you didn't miss anything important, so French, continue.
Thank you.
Cool.
Why you always got to add in your little 2 pence? Because I will put my little thing in, but anyway, go on, French.
Similar answer or read into a previous... Similar answer or read into a previous question. Why do you think we get taught to avoid pain? No. I actually wrote this note and said that was a similar answer or reading whilst reading a previous question, and we discussed it in the last episode where we asked why do we think we get taught to avoid pain rather take it on head first when it can be so beneficial. And the point that I was making is Mark mentions that avoiding failure is something we learn at some later point in life from the education system, from like basically taking exams and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Overbearing the critical parents and mass media showing one side of the on the road to success. We already see the highlight.
One part of the coin, really, truth be told.
Yeah, one side of the road, same thing.
Sorry, go on.
That's on page 150. Again, as I said prior, this was a great chapter and I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of things that resonated with me personally, but I haven't actually written any more notes. So if you wanna add anything else yourself, Pete, feel free to. Otherwise, we can move on to chapter.
Yeah, no, I'll just I'll mention a few points, and obviously I know there's a few things I highlighted and stuff like that. There are things that I personally took from the chapter, and please chime in anywhere. Was failure. Obviously, that's the name of it. Failure is the way forward, which is I think the name of the chapter. You mustn't be afraid to fail. Success involves many days and nights of failed attempts. Also, we spoke about the Picasso thing, where I forget how old he was at that point, but I'm gonna say he was relatively old.
Yeah, it was in his last stages of his life.
Yeah, but also all his experiences, whether it's failures, successes and stuff like that, led to that point where the value of the napkin held that value of £20,000 or 20,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I wasn't too sure about this, but a lot of fear comes from having shitty values. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't too sure what to take from that, and obviously then I asked myself the question, and I have probably wrote this down wrong. Is at that point, do you probably start questioning those values?
At what point?
He said a lot of fear comes from having shitty values. Okay, let's be a bit honest, alright?
Yeah.
It's an honest conversation. So this moment in time, I'm probably going away. I'm going away to Barcelona. I'm sure people have got probably very similar things going on where they have a little bit of fear as to what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, it says the question, well, not the question, but the statement was a lot of fear comes from having shitty values. I don't necessarily believe my values are rubbish in any way, shape or form. Okay? But at that point, if you know you haven't got...
Is that not in the book? Sorry, P, I know you're halfway through your question, that he says a lot of fear is from having shitty values.
Yeah, he does say that, yeah. I can't find it.
Fair dues, I'm not doubting.
Shitty values. Yeah. So my thing was really is, like, at what point do you start really questioning the values?
Questioning the shitty values?
Or your values in general, because I know
That's what didn't French, didn't you raise this earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the values, but shitty values I'm talking about.
No, just values in itself.
Cool, no worries. I mean, obviously, as I said before, I'm just
go over shitty ones.
No, because he mentions that.
Diarrhea.
No, because he mentions that. Okay, I can move on. It's not a problem.
Constipated values.
I can move on. Okay, got me back. No problem. All right, cool. On adversity.
Lions in the camp.
On adversity.
Got him.
Oh god, on adversity. Anyway, on adversity. I think it speaks about following.
We're still in chapter 7 here.
Yeah, I know. So we speak. Yeah,
are we?
Yeah. So it speaks about obviously following the war.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to remember this now. So following the war, people had different perspective, and the reason why they had different perspective is because the war.
Oh, he goes on about the Polish.
Poland, yeah. So again, obviously, please chime in. Yeah, what's chapter 7? Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. So following the war, obviously, people had different perspective.
Yeah.
In that, obviously, they've been through so much, and that they now obviously got appreciation for this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
He also went on to mention, obviously, I think in that chapter as well, that obviously some people unfortunately obviously went into depression and stuff like that. But I think some of the stuff that we've been talking about, obviously, in this chapter is obviously failure is the way forward. So in that, obviously, going through so much.
Yeah.
Alright, in that it then provides you obviously with a foundation and a platform to then obviously push on as such. Unfortunately, some people, I don't want to say you're not strong enough, obviously, in being through a war and then going through depression, because obviously things happen and stuff like that. But at the same time, success involves, as I mentioned before, many days and nights of failed attempts.
Cool. Can I just intersect? There's two things I wanted to raise from the chapter. So I'm going to go back because I forgot about the Polish thing. So I think just to give it some more backdrop, I don't know if research was conducted or he spoke, or Mark Manson himself spoke to someone who was alive in that era where the war was going on, and obviously you had Auschwitz, you had the persecution of Jews, obviously, and obviously the Polish people as well, suffered a traumatic experience. I think he spoke to someone after that and kind of wanted to gauge their views on the war and how the people felt years after. It might have been some years after. You have to, if you read the book yourself, you obviously get a better picture. But he was surprised to learn that the people, whilst obviously not happy with what happened at the war, they deem it as it helped them, because it's almost like all three of us here, obviously we've lived out our address for a certain amount of time, but do we know everyone on our road? Probably not. I know a couple of neighbours.
I don't.
Right. What he was saying is that the fact that war went on, it brought about a community feel, spirit amongst the people, and they're much more, and they had a lot more respect, and B, they had a lot more value of life and the meaning of life and the importance of it, and being happy and just being happy for the day, for the new day and stuff like that. And he found that the Polish people were they were glad that this traumatic experience taking place. It had shown them what life meant, and they tend to keep their their values very family orientated, and keep in contact with friends and family, make sure everyone's alright, almost like a lions in the camp feel where everyone's together. So that was just some backdrop to what P mentioned. The other thing, there's a principle in here he mentions, just do it principle, I think it is in that chapter. And what that refers to is if you're sitting down procrastinating on an idea, and you might be 80% of the way there. The story one of you brought up earlier about who was it? The artist?
Picasso.
No, the other one about artwork.
The guy, his friend.
His friend.
Mark Manson friend. Yeah.
Just do it principle. In that, if you're gonna literally just get on your computer, whatever it is you're doing, just do it. Just start. Because what Mark Manson found with him is he started a blog, I think, or something about dating girls or something like that. But what he finds is that you start. And then you get this inspiration, and it motivates you to do more, and then action occurs, and it's almost like
you compound the small wins. That's what that is.
Is that another way of referring to it?
That's another way of referring to it.
Right,
yeah,
and
definitely.
it's like a cycle it turns into.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And you gather momentum. Yeah. And then obviously you've got, this is not in the book, but you've got that thing where if you repeatedly do something a certain amount of time, it becomes habit.
Yeah.
So then you've got all that. So that was two of the things I took from that chapter. And you're right, it's a powerful chapter. He really came into his own.
Just on what you're talking about, it's obviously you just mentioned it. Life is about not knowing and then doing something anyway. So for those individuals who believe they need a certain amount of knowledge in order to go ahead and do it, I mean, you don't. It's a case about just getting up and then getting on with it.
Obviously, you got to take that with
not a pinch of salt.
Yeah, not with a pinch of salt, but just in perspective. I mean, I don't know what death feels. Doesn't mean I'm going to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quote that you just mentioned made me think of the certainty of not having certainty but still doing it. Like, if we relate it back to like the things like The Secret, and again, I think there's a few comparisons with this book and The Secret. I know I keep saying it, but if I was to how I visualize my business and what I intend to do and create and things of that nature, I can envision it in my mind and see it there, but there's no certainty that it's going to happen. But I still need to take the chance to make that step. I still have to go forward, even though in my head it's certain. I'm certain that's going to happen. I know that's going to happen. All bets are off. It's done. It's a done deal. I can't just sit on my arse and think, oh, this is certain, so I don't have to do nothing. I still need to take the step to make sure that certainty becomes a reality. Do you know what I mean?
So it's very quick. I want to add a bit of context to shitty values, just very quickly. So a lot of this fear of failure comes from having chosen shitty values. For instance, if I measure myself by the standard everyone I meet like me, I will be anxious because failure is 100% defined by the actions of others, not by my own actions. I am not in control. Thus, my self-worth is at the mercy of judgment by others. Whereas if I instead adopt the metric improve my social life, I can live up to my value of good relations with others, regardless of how other people respond to me. My self-worth is based on my own behaviour and happiness. Shitty values, as we saw in chapter 4, as you mentioned, we've gone over before, involve tangible external goals outside of our control. The pursuit of these goals causes great anxiety, and even if we manage to achieve them, they leave us feeling empty and lifeless, because once they're achieved, there is no more problems to solve. Better values, in summary, as we saw, are process orientated. Something like express myself honestly to others. A metric for the value of honesty is never completely finished. Is a problem that must continuously be re-engaged. Every new conversation, every new relationship brings new challenges and opportunities for honest expression. The value is ongoing. Life process that defines completion.
Is that?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's me done.
Right, Romeo.
Shitty values done, and I believe chapter 7.
Alright, cool. Let's move on to chapter 8. The importance of saying no. I used to love that chat. First part. Freedom grants the opportunity for greater meaning, but by itself there is nothing necessarily meaningful about it. And that's on page 166. Do you consider freedom as isolation?
Pardon?
Do you consider freedom?
So repeat the back part. I understood the quote.
Freedom grants the opportunity for greater meaning, but by itself there is nothing necessarily meaningful about it. Do you consider freedom as isolation?
That's a powerful question. I wasn't stopped you because I didn't make you repeat it because I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I know you're thinking it's outside the box and kind of things. It's one of them ones, P. If we probably understand it, but if you break it down, it's like, you know, it's similar to like Lonely at the Top, that kind of thing. It's like different thinking. So obviously, I give you an example of the news and Western media, where you've got if I stereotype and say everyone loves a Friday night drink after work, and then if you don't, you're an outsider. You're made to feel like you're not part of the traditional, you know, the mass or what's right in inverted commas, what you know. Everyone does that, don't they? You know, that kind of thing. So I understand where that question's coming from, and to an extent I agree with you, French. I agree with you. If you've let the shackles off, and you're like similar to self-pity almost, like fuck it, this is me, I'm doing this. Yeah, maybe I don't know what it's going to take me in 3 or 4 months, but I'm not doing what everyone else does. Yeah. I don't know if you feel like, let's just give it to your family. Not give it to your family, but you know what I'm saying. Your immediate family. I don't know if what you've said to your parents, your mom.
I've said nothing.
Right. I'm sure when you say that, they're going to think you're crazy.
Yeah, they will think I'm
like,
crazy.
You need to be in one of them institutes.
I don't think my dad will, but my mum, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying, and to an extent it does, because you're not part of the mass, French. Coming back to your question. That's freedom. Yeah, it does. It's almost that same saying, lonely at the top. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, no.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I do consider it as isolation to an extent. I think to follow on from your point, you kind of got the nail on the head in terms of where I was coming from in that regards. It goes on to mention it almost flips it on its head as well. I think slightly after. Actually, no, it doesn't, because I've written it down. But yeah, I do consider freedom as an isolation.
And I think it depends on the extent. If someone's just escaped from jail and they're free, that's a different type of freedom.
Yeah, of course.
That's not isolation.
Of course, but yeah, and as you said, from the masses, when you do something that, when everyone's going right and you decide to go left, and it's a form of freedom, but you're also isolated.
Isolating yourself.
Yeah.
It could relate to anything. It could relate to a viewpoint.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It could be anything.
Absolutely.
It could be. I could be sitting there with my Trump T-shirt, and all of a sudden, whoa, he's like, after him, like, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely.
What do you think, Pete?
I totally agree with those standpoints and those views. I mean, I was looking at it ever so slightly different in that. Again, obviously, I know we all got different paths. We all want to achieve different things as such. I think within the compounds of the stuff that we're going to achieve, or we want to achieve, I think they share very similar characteristics. And in so, I think you can share certain values with people and then potentially go on that journey together. There may be a point where you branch off a bit slightly, and you might find isolation, or you might be a little bit alone in doing that as such. But by and large, I think you may share. Like, for example, we're here together, so. Although we're reading the book and stuff like that, we're going to find probably different meanings. We're probably going to want to take different things from the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in fact, no. So like, just being a bit honest, like, truth be told, I mean, there's certain things that I want to go on and I want to do and stuff like that. And just like talking on, like we spoke about the artists not too long ago in terms of having things together, but just like forget looking for perfection, just release it as such. I think there's a thing within my own compound at this moment in time where I'm not scared. I don't think I'm scared of anything at this moment in time in terms of going out and wanting to achieve something. But I think more often than not, I'm looking for a perfection which is preventing me from taking that next step, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense, man. Definitely. Moving on just slightly. In this case, Russia had me re-examining the bullshitty fake, and this was just to give you some context. He's gone over to Russia, and obviously he's come from America, where customer service and being polite and everything else is like it's almost a currency in itself. Like it's really pushed. It's a really pushed thing, as we know in the UK as well.
Was he travelling or something?
Yeah, he was travelling. And I think Russia was one of the last destinations that he went to. Yeah. But just to reiterate, in this case, Russia had me re-examining the bullshitty, fake, nice communication that is so common in Anglo culture, and that's on page 168. My question being is, do you think we are too polite and not honest enough? Second question, are we too sensitive to be blunt?
Too polite and not honest enough. Yeah, and I think that can even link back to your first question. It's about fitting in, bro. I'll be honest, man. just like starting a new role as I did a few months ago, you don't want to rock the boat too much. And yeah, you might, and even everyone has their, going back to mask and masculinity, you have your mask anyway.
I was going to make that point. But
great minds.
Yeah, of course. No,
but going back to you have your mask anyway, but then it's also, you don't want to rock the boat. You won't, maybe in the first week or so, you won't show, and you might be agreeable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you kind of have to. You don't want to, as you said, don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're aligned with the right people and make the best impression you can with the right people and things like that, so you won't kind of say the extraordinary that would almost kind of be a very definitive, okay, well, I like you or I don't like you. You'd rather just kind of stay, as you said, stay in the middle, don't rock the boat, and say whether it is necessary to the general consensus, whether you agree with it or not.
What was your second question?
Are we too sensitive to be blunt? Like, as a culture, Western culture, are we too sensitive to be blunt or honest?
Yeah, do you know what?
Blunt being, I think being blunt is sometimes I just call it being honest. To be honest with you,
do you know what's crazy? Because sometimes I get misconstrued as rude, and what it is.
That's my point. I get that all the time.
And what it is I'm just actually, sometimes what it is with me is, if something's very urgent or I'm trying to organise something, I know this is horrible, I call them the niceties. I haven't got time for the niceties. You know, the please, the thank you, oh, you're a star.
Yeah. It's cutting through the fat and it's getting straight to
exactly.
You know what I mean?
This needs to be done when it will be done. That's it. It's not rude, it's just straight to the point. But what it is, maybe because I've softened you up with the niceties before, where it wasn't so urgent, something wasn't so urgent, or I had no need to be so direct. Sometimes there's times, bam, I just need to say something now. Yeah. I gave an example earlier where I was out with went out for a friend's birthday and we got lost. I was with someone and we got lost, and I was just very slightly rude, but yeah, very. I just realised that now.
Very clipped into the point.
It's just like bang, we've got to get here. So I haven't got time for the niceties and hurry up or speed up. I'm going, come. That's it.
Really, no, I get it. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, no, it's funny because I know we spoke about backgrounds and stuff like that, and I know the background of the Russian woman. They come from, obviously, the Russian woman, obviously from Russia, and I think he goes on to say, Mark, that obviously in them coming from then, I'm not going to say necessarily now because I'm none the wiser as to a communist run government. I'm going to say is that so in coming from that, I think they learned or had to be very, very clear with what they were saying. So that's the reason, obviously, why she was very honest and obviously very, very blunt. I mean, what I generally kind of like took from, dare I say, that small story was that you need to be very, very clear as to what you want with your boundaries, level of responsibility and stuff like that. And that obviously having them obviously blurred, then you don't really take responsibility for anything. But to answer your question, so your questions were...
Do you think we are too polite and honest and not honest enough? And secondly, are we too sensitive to be blunt?
I 100% believe we're too sensitive to be blunt.
Yeah.
And I think we're definitely too polite as well. But I think that's because I think we're raised... Yeah, I think it's just the way we're raised in, obviously, in a Western society.
Do you know what's crazy? So I don't
think it's a problem, though.
I actually work with someone who's Russian at one of my jobs. And... she can come across when she's got, do you know what it is? She's a nice enough girl, but she's very straight to the point. She's half Russian, and she actually grew up in Russia until about like 12 or something like that. Yeah. But she's very, very straight to the point, to the extent where, because of the society and culture we come from, you can misinterpret for being rude. But she's just very, no smiles, no gimmicks, it's just bam. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
To me, it's like when and where though, really, as to. Like, there's nothing wrong with being... Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being nice and all that type of stuff. Niceties, as what Mason mentioned before.
But at the same time, you don't want to be.
No, I think sometimes we're all going to wake up in a mood, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that we should be rude to someone. I know sometimes we can.
To be rude, but that's the thing. And I don't mean to...
Misunderstood.
Interrupt, sorry. But there's a difference between being rude and being honest or being straight to the point. And I think a lot of people get this misconstrued. Okay, you're rude. I get the amount of times I've been told you're so rude. It's like, I'm not actually. Like, if I was actually to be rude to you and try to be rude, you would know that I'm being rude to you. But I'm just like, I'll straight to the point. Well, this is what it is, and this is how I feel, or no, this happened, and like, let's be very factual about it. And because if you're very A to B about something, that can be seen as being rude. And it's not. I'm not trying to be rude at all.
Trappo doesn't agree with that. Straight A to B and B to A.
But to round up on what we was just discussing, I think you mentioned it being that way because we're so westernized in our culture. And Mark goes on to mention, in the free West, inverted commas, my Russian teacher continued, there existed an abundance of economic opportunity. So much economic opportunity that it became far more valuable to present yourself in a certain way, even if it was false, than to actually be that way. Trust lost its value. Appearances and salesmanship became more advantageous forms of expression. There is such pressure in the West to be likable that people often reconfigure their entire personality depending on the person they're dealing with, which is on page 170. And that's what made me think about referring back to the old season or the previous season we've done, the Mask of Masculinity. So, because of the way our culture is, we will adopt or adapt to the scenario that we're in. So, for example, us three can be here chilling right now, but if we all had to then go to work, all of a sudden, we would have a different form, a different posture, and a different way of talking. So we have to kind of adapt to those that we're dealing with. Do you know what I mean? Moving on slightly, rejection makes you like better. The avoidance of rejection, both giving and receiving it, is often sold to us as a way to make ourselves feel better. But avoiding rejection gives us short-term pleasure by making us rudderless and directionless in the long term. That's on page 170. And when I read that, the quote from Styles P came to my mind. Rejection is acceptance when dealing with a changed mind. I think that's quite poignant with that. Rejection is acceptance when dealing with a changed mind.
Yeah, I think you need to accept, before you can move on, Yeah. Styles P is a prophet, by the way, boy. Yeah, so 100%. Let's not play that down.
Yeah, no, 100%. The point is this. We all must give a fuck about something in order to value something. And to value something, you must reject what is not that something. To value X, we must reject non-X. People in a healthy relationship with strong boundaries will take responsibility for their own values and problems and not take responsibility for their partner's values and problems. And that's on page 175. Do you agree or dispute?
Did they say responsibility?
Yeah, let me check. Responsibility for their own values and problems and not sorry, French.
And not take responsibility for their partner's values and problems.
You know what sounds mad? I don't know. What's mad is, I think if you're in a kind of in a relationship where you're proper into your partner, you automatically, I think, will feel obliged if your partner's. I don't know why this came to mind, but it's so wrong. But damsel in distress. But if your partner's in need, automatically you will put them first, and you will want to take on board
their problems.
For me, everyone's relationship is different, isn't it? But for me, when you're a partnership, if a relationship equals a partnership, and with a partnership, it's like you're both in it together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see my partner suffering and I'm not suffering. Like, we suffer together in it. Two is better than one, or how can we both sort this out? Yeah. So it's a bit mad, isn't it? It's a bit. I see what he's saying, that it should be two individuals, fully comprehensible, fully. If we go back to our first season where we read attached, fully secure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work like that. For me, in practicality, it doesn't work like that, man. If you saw your other half in distress straight away, I don't want you to be feeling like that or acting like that or whatever, or this to be stressing you out like that. I'm taking on some of that burden. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one for me to agree with that statement.
What about you, P?
Yeah, I think you've definitely got to help him out, but I think there was a part in it where he was talking about.
What's your thoughts? Don't say there's a part where he's talking about.
Sorry, repeat the question because I was going to move on.
Do you agree or dispute?
Sorry, with
People, you don't listen. People in a healthy relationship with strong boundaries will take responsibility for their own values and problems, and not take responsibility for their partner's values and problems.
I think
or dispute.
I dispute that. I think you got to help your partner out. I think there's no way you can see your partner, as Mason said, with some problems and then not want to help them out. I mean, I know he mentions obviously voluntarily, and
he goes on to mention about assisting.
Yes,
the difference between like taking on fully on board
and voluntarily,
and then assisting with helping them.
But I'm looking at more from, dare I say, from a consistent standpoint, if your partner is consistently maybe neglecting, I don't want to say here, I was going to say duties, but neglecting her responsibilities, dare I say, then I think you might need to question one or two things. I think it speaks about obviously the boundaries obviously are the delineation between two people's responsibilities for their own problems. If you've got a partner who can't deal with her problems, then you, my friend, have got more than one problem. You now have two. You now have two.
What's the two problems?
Yours and hers.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention on that part?
Sorry, give me a second.
I'll be honest, there's a couple bits that's on 177 and 179 that I wanted to really get into, but as I said, I was not stopping for now. I was so invested in reading the actual chapters, I didn't actually write down notes. I just put down page numbers. So 177 and page 179.
So let's run through one.
I've got some gems in there.
Cool, no worries. Okay, so just sort of touching on boundaries, and people in a healthy relationship with strong boundaries will take responsibility for their own values and problems, and not take responsibility for their partner's values and problems. People in toxic relationships with poor or no boundaries will regularly avoid responsibility for their own problems and or take responsibility for their partner's problems.
That may have been one of the gems. Might have been.
May well, but I don't think it was.